Vertical farming is a new green trend that's happening in Taiwan.
You can even try it on your own apartment balcony. Stash talks to our partners at Voice of America about that.
We'll also tell you about upcycling basketballs and an Omicron subvariant in Taiwan.
And in hashtag Taiwan, I'm going to tell you about Lithuanian rum and chocolate in Taiwan. This is Taiwan Insider.
Today we look at a revolutionary trend in farming, vertical farming. Staś Butler visited YesHealth, the company behind Taiwan's largest vertical farm.
In some ways, agriculture in Taiwan looks a lot like it did 50 years ago. Farmers harvest crops from the fields and orchards that fill Taiwan's flatlands. But away from it all, in a warehouse in Taoyuan City, one company is doing things very differently. Now, this huge building behind me is the iFarm. It's run by YesHealth. It's the biggest vertical farm in Taiwan and produces 1.5 tons of leafy vegetables every day. The team from YesHealth has agreed to give me an inside look at how their vertical farm runs. Chief Commercial Officer Jesper Hansen tells me what the company is all about.
So we're a 10-year-old company. We started by building and developing technology for vertical farming in Taoyuan, Taiwan. We've since become the largest operator and seller of produce from a vertical farm, today selling into Jason's, Carrefour, Costco, and a number of high-end restaurants and hotels throughout northern Taiwan. We have built and today operate the largest vertical farm in mainland China. We have also built and operate the largest vertical farm in Europe. And over the next couple of years, we will be building more and more farms throughout Asia, Middle East, Europe, and North America mainly.
We head down into a huge hall lined with row upon row of growing beds. Jesper explains how it works.
We can super tailor the environment in there to fit the needs of each plant. And as a result, we can over time accumulate wealth of data that we can apply towards knowing what is the more efficient setup.
And that setup even extends to the music you can hear.
This music is playing inside here, it's not playing for tourists. We use music in there to enhance the plant growth.
So that's something that research has shown is effective.
Yeah.
Research has even found that soil isn't necessarily the best medium for growing crops.
So hydroponic growing is substituting soil as a medium with water. Water is an easier medium to control, and it's easier to provide the nutrients to the root through water than through soil. It's an immense saving from traditional field farming. Here we can grow using only a couple of percentage of what would have been used outdoor, meaning that the savings in water can easily be 90-95%.
And the company has developed a way of filling its water with microscopic bubbles to enrich the water with oxygen. YesHealth even makes its own organic fertilizer to feed to its plants, with bacteria to prevent algae and fungus from growing.
This formula will have almost 50 different proprietary bacteria that we've developed in our lab that will have some kind of antagonist mechanism towards those bacteria that we don't want to see.
And the final ingredient for it all? Light.
We create the sunlight using LED technology, and one of the reasons why vertical farming is a viable business today is because the LED technology has improved a lot over the past decade. In order for us to lower energy consumption as much as possible, we don't want to be using any electricity, which is a cost for us that is not necessary to grow the plant. And all the lights that are not essentially important for the plant growth or the plant health, we would cut away.
All that's left is for me to try some of the produce for myself, in the form of a fresh salad.
That was good.
Jesper Hansen is realistic about the industry's future, saying vertical farming will never completely replace traditional agriculture. But if companies like YesHealth keep growing like they do, don't be surprised to find a lab-grown salad coming soon to a plate near you.
Vertical farming is a global trend. You can even do it at home on an apartment balcony. Here's a report from our partners at Voice of America.
In densely populated cities such as Washington, D.C., there's often nowhere to grow food but up. Vertical farming is just one of the urban farming concepts on display at the University of the District of Columbia's Urban Food Hub.
Controlled environment ag is able to grow anywhere between 3 to 10 times as much food per square foot as a traditional farm. We're also growing in a controlled environment climatically, so we don't have nearly as much of the pest pressure, which mitigates needing to spray pesticides and herbicides as well. So there's no nutrient runoff, there's no chemical runoff from sites like this.
All the food grown here is donated to local nonprofit organizations and food banks. Distributed locally means cutting down the environmental impact of gasoline use and food waste.
On average in the US, the food miles can add up to anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000. That is, if you add all the miles that make up your plate of food, it's just so much.
Experts say anyone can start growing food inside or outside their homes. All it takes is sunlight, a little space, and some patience. Even an apartment balcony can work.
You just have to match whatever you're growing on, maybe the amount of sunlight that you're getting. So if you are getting anywhere from 6 and above, like 6, 7, 8 hours of light, then you can do tomatoes. Again, you can do peppers. If you are not getting that amount of light, you want to start thinking of the more of the leafy greens, Swiss chard, spinach, and stuff like that.
The global population is projected to exceed 9 billion by 2050, and by then, 2 out of every 3 people are expected to live in urban areas.
I see us more as almost revolutionaries, right? We're revolutionizing how food is grown, where it's grown, and who has access to it.
Or as these folks say, urban farming is not a fad, it's a necessity. Chris Casquejo, VOA News, Washington.
To find out more about vertical farming on a smaller scale, I asked Voice of America reporter Chris Casquejo what kinds of people are taking part in this growing trend.
Well, if they're interested in sustainability, if they look into the research of, the distance that food travels to get to their plates, it's that kind of consumer who wants to do their part. The kind of consumer that is conscious about recycling, conscious about what kind of car they drive. They might drive a hybrid vehicle or an electric vehicle. So those are the kinds of people that seem to be taking part in these kinds of smaller scale operations. And they consider themselves not environmental activists, but revolutionaries, because they're addressing those issues of food security and nutrition and sustainability. So you're seeing a lot of things at play here.
What are the kinds of things that people here could grow?
The leafy greens, the microgreens, the Swiss chard, the bok choy, all the kinds of stuff that are good for you. But of course, there's limitations. You can't grow wheat or rice in sort of this vertical situation. So those are the things that you can grow on your own. And that's what we're seeing people do who are trying to get into this, on their own or on a smaller scale, because they're easier and they're quicker growing. Like, it takes a couple of months for tomatoes and peppers to grow, whereas it takes a couple of days or weeks for microgreens or Swiss chards or bok choy or lettuce or kale to grow.
What would be your advice to someone who wanted to kind of start doing this for themselves?
Start small. You can start growing herbs like basil, and then work your way up to the more branchy herbs, and then the greens you can grow in jars in your own home, as long as you have enough sunlight, 6, 7, 8 hours of sunlight, and then find resources online. There's all kinds of websites online where you can visit. They have classes, they have online videos, YouTube. So there's just all kinds of resources out there if you want to get started on this sort of smaller scale growing. I wouldn't even call it farming, because farming might intimidate people because they think on a larger scale, oh, I need a patch of land. No, you don't. I mean, if you want to grow things in your own home, you have water, you have sunlight, you have jars, you can do it.
Basketball is one of the most popular sports in Taiwan, but discarded equipment from the sport creates a lot of non-biodegradable waste. Luckily, one Taiwanese startup is making a business out of turning that trash into treasure.
plant pots, key rings, handbags. You don't need to be a basketball fan to recognize the orange rubber in all of these designs. They're part of a collection by Double Dribble, a design company putting upcycling and sustainability at the heart of the business. Out of their new base in Taipei's Songshan Cultural Market, the company's 3 founders run workshops teaching others their craft. What began as a design school project is now a flourishing enterprise, thanks partly to a generous loan from the government. Co-founder Huang Weiyu says Double Dribble aims to recycle each ball without downgrading the material in the process. He says each new product preserves the ball's unique character. Double Dribble mostly uses discarded basketballs for its designs, along with the odd volleyball or American football. Each ball is different, and turning them into viable products takes time and patience. Huang says they have to cut each ball to size before cleaning it and trimming it further. He says it's a very labor-intensive process. But none of those difficulties have stopped customers from wanting to take part. Double Dribble runs do-it-yourself courses, teaching people how to turn a tired old basketball into a hanging planter. With more and more innovative designs in production, Double Dribble aims to make upcycling basketballs into a slam dunk success.
COVID-19 is continuously mutating as it spreads around the world. That's how we ended up with the Omicron variant, which has become the dominant form of the virus circulating around the world. Now, a subvariant of Omicron has been identified in Taiwan, originating from a cluster at a port in the south.
COVID-19 keeps evolving as it spreads through populations around the world. Taiwan has recently reported a cluster of cases of unknown origin centered around the port of Kaohsiung. Testing has revealed a connection between those infections and a new subvariant of Omicron, BA2. The Dean of National Taiwan University Children's Hospital, Huang Limin, says that the appearance of infections means that the virus is already present in the community. He says the subvariant seems more infectious than Omicron, but it's uncertain by how much. This latest wave of infections also seems to spread more readily among younger age groups than was the case in the past. Most of those infected in January were under 50, with a relatively high proportion of young adults and children. Fewer serious symptoms are associated with infections among the youth, but that also means the spread of the virus is harder to contain. Toxicologist Zhao Mingwei says that transmissions in places like kindergartens are impossible to contain. He remains ambiguous, however, on whether this is a cause for concern. It is also still too early to determine whether the COVID virus can be treated as endemic. Dr. Huang says that treating the coronavirus as endemic will require time, and he doubts it will be possible anytime soon. Professor Zhao says that in order to treat the virus as endemic, the mortality rate needs to be low. He says Omicron's mortality and side effects remain a serious concern to the unvaccinated. Professor of Public Health at National Taiwan University, Chen Xiuxi, says that in order to control the spread of the COVID virus, it is important to try to minimize the number of asymptomatic patients and deploy large-scale rapid testing.
Next up, Leslie daydreams about Lithuanian chocolate in #Taiwan.
At the beginning of this year, Taiwan Tobacco and Liquor Corporation committed to buying 20,000 bottles of Lithuanian rum that was denied entry into China. Why did that happen? Well, Chinese-Lithuanian ties right now are really strained because Taiwan and Lithuania decided to open representative offices in each other's countries. And Taiwan got to call its office the Taiwanese Representative Office instead of something involving the phrase Chinese Taipei. That makes China unhappy because it thinks Lithuania is legitimizing Taiwan's identity as a separate country. So anyway, long story short, China won't import the rum, so that's why Taiwan is getting it here instead. Earlier this week, TTL released details on when it's going to make the rum available for purchase. The company says it will release an initial 6,000 bottle batch on February 1st to the public. Each bottle will cost 600 new Taiwan dollars, which is about 21 US dollars. Now, TTL has been criticized online for its pricing. Online users pointed out that in China, the rum goes for about a quarter of what TTL is asking for. But if you ask me, a Taiwanese person, I think this rum is worth so much more than its monetary value. I kind of see it as an important historical artifact that marks a significant time in Taiwanese-Lithuanian ties. But if you're not like me and you want to purchase the rum for consumption, well then Taiwan's National Development Council's got you covered because they published a whole bunch of recipe suggestions using the rum online. As a reminder, if you choose to consume alcohol, be it Lithuanian or not, please do so responsibly. In other news though, Lithuanian chocolate is selling like hotcakes in Taiwan. Natalie, who loves frequenting Lithuanian chocolate shop Ruta, wrote on Twitter that the store was pretty much sold out of many flavors. Now, with the supply chain issues going on around the world, it might take a while for the store shelves to get restocked. But then again, I recently saw a Twitter thread that got me thinking about Taiwanese-Lithuanian chocolate collaboration. Dr. Zsuzsa Anna Ferenci first tweeted that a Lithuanian chocolate maker wanted to create a type of Taiwanese flavored chocolate. Then, Taiwan Next Gen founder research fellow Marcin Jerzewski actually then went into detail about why Taiwan's chocolate production industry is primed for a partnership with Lithuania. Jerzewski tweeted that cocoa beans, the key component in chocolate, first came to Taiwan from Indonesia in 1922. He pointed out that Taiwan's southernmost Pingtung County has a very suitable climate for producing cocoa. He says that when Taiwan was a Japanese colony, several major Japanese companies wanted to set up cocoa ventures in Taiwan, and chocolate made from Taiwanese cocoa beans is supposedly very high quality. In 2019, Taiwan's chocolatiers won big at the International Chocolate Awards World Final Competition, which is a thing, winning 7 gold, 26 silver, and 5 bronze. First of all, I am very impressed with Jerzewski's knowledge of Taiwan's chocolate production and confectionery history. The chocolate shop in Taipei is part of a Lithuanian confection company that's been making chocolate for over 100 years. So, Jerzewski thinks that chocolate made from Taiwanese cocoa beans and Lithuanian know-how could be formidable. As a guy who would gladly go on an all-chocolate diet, if not for a family history of diabetes, I really hope that happens.
And before we leave you, here's a look at some of the other news stories that are on our radar.
Taiwan's Vice President Lai Ching-te has arrived in Honduras for the inauguration of the country's first female president, Xiomara Castro. The ceremony will take place on Thursday. Castro and Lai both said that Honduras and Taiwan are enjoying friendly relations and expressed hopes that they will keep improving. On his way to Honduras, Lai made a brief visit to Los Angeles, where he was greeted by Taiwan's envoy to the US, the chairman of the American Institute in Taiwan, and Honduras's consul general. Due to COVID-19 restrictions, the vice president was only able to greet local Taiwanese residents from a distance. Taiwan has reported a cluster of COVID cases of unknown origin centered around the port of Kaohsiung. Testing has revealed a connection between those infections and a new subvariant of Omicron, BA2. Premier Su Zhengcang said on Tuesday that the latest wave is characterized by fast transmission but relatively mild symptoms and that there was no need to panic. Taiwan reported the second highest number of Chinese incursions into its air defense identification zone since the Defense Ministry started publishing reports in September 2020. 39 Chinese warplanes entered the zone on Sunday, with J-16 and J-10 multi-role fighters comprising the bulk of the force. The highest single-day number of incursions was recorded in October last year, when China sent 56 machines into Taiwan's air defense zone.
And we're back in the studio for our final question of the day, and today I'm going to be asking my coworkers what they're going to do over Lunar New Year break. Now, this show is going to be the one right before the Lunar New Year, and in Taiwan we have a 9-day break, so there's a lot you can do in 9 days. So Stash, tell me, what's your plans for Lunar New Year?
I am going to Yilan.
Oh, nice. I like Yilan.
Yeah, I'm going to spend a lot of time with my friends, my Taiwanese friends' family.
Nice.
Probably drinking lots of whiskey and having lots of merry times.
How are you getting out there?
Merry times.
I think we have a train booked.
Okay.
Yeah, so thankfully.
Good.
Yeah, but those things go very fast. So
yeah, but car or bus, it gets very trafficky out there.
A lot of cars. A lot of people like to go there. That's why.
Natalie, what are you going to be doing over
I'm
Lunar
just going
New
to be
Year break?
hanging out with my family. Very
nice.
precious.
Yeah.
So just some precious relaxed time.
In Taipei?
Hopefully fun time. Mostly in Taipei, I think.
Your boy's going to be home?
Yes.
All right, great. And for me, I intend on doing a lot of cooking.
Oh, nice.
Because, I have a lot of
What are you gonna cook?
ingredients in my house. Well, the thing is, like, the sky's the limit, right? I have so many things. Today, I opened my freezer. I was like, I got to do something about all this.
Are you doing like traditional kind of...
No.
The Buddha's jumping over the wall.
Some Leslie
I can't do that. That's the first, like, Buddha jumping over the wall is so intimidating because...
It's not that hard. I did it before.
Have you done it? Because all of the ingredients are like high ticket items. You got like abalone, and then like it's just like I don't want to mess that up.
Yeah.
You have to go to Deha Street.
Yeah. I'm going to be doing a lot of slow food because I've been subsisting off a lot of beef jerky lately and cereal, and it's going to be nice to have a good full-on meal.
Good.
And I hope
That
you guys
sounds nice.
eat a lot during Lunar New Year also. But that's about all the time we have for this edition of Taiwan Insider. I'm Leslie Liao.
I'm Staś Butler.
And I am Natalie Tso.
Make sure to follow us on Facebook and YouTube.
And also leave a comment below. We'd love to hear from you.
Our Twitter handle is very easy. It's just Taiwan Insider, one word. Let us know what you're doing over the Lunar New Year. Anyway, guys, until next week, see you around.